Hello students, this is Hassan and welcome to a new English class. Today we're going to talk about the importance of using a comma in writing. We're going to learn about some rules of the comma, and I have here a very good example that shows the importance of using comma correctly in writing. Let's eat grandma. Now, this sentence, the way it is, means you are suggesting to someone or you are inviting someone to go and eat with you your grandma. Okay, it's as if you are going to eat your grandmother. Now, without the comma here, this is what it means. Now, by adding a comma here, it has the correct meaning. Let's eat grandma. This means that you are offering to eat with your grandmother. You are inviting your grandmother to eat with you. Okay? Well, this is just a brief introduction to the importance of the comma in writing, and it shows how important using a comma is if you want to be understood. If you want your writing to be understood by readers, make sure to put the comma in the right place. Okay, so let's go over the rules of the comma. We're gonna go over 8 comma rules. They are very important in writing. Let's get started. First one, use a comma to separate the elements in a series, 3 or more things, including the last 2. Okay, so the first rule means when we have a list of items, we have to set off this list of items with a comma. Example, you hit the ball, drop the bat, and ran to the first base. So here we have a list of clauses. The first one is hit the ball, the second is dropped the bat, and the last one is run to the first base. Now it says here 3 or more. What does this mean? This means that if we are, let's say, joining just 2 items in a list, we cannot use a comma before the conjunction. If I say, for example, the right is here, he and I, okay, went out. So here I have just 2 items connected with and, he, and the pronoun I. In this case, I can't use the comma before he. It has to be, before and. It has to be more than 2 items, 3 or more. Okay. Second example, I went to the supermarket and bought some fruits, vegetables, and milk. So here again I have 3 items. The first one is fruits, the second is vegetables, and the last one is milk. And always remember to close the list with a comma. Why? Because sometimes it may be confusing to the reader whether the last item before and the last one in the list go together as one item or 2 items. So just to avoid confusion, make sure to put a comma before the end or whatever conjunction you are using in your sentence to close the list. So this is rule number 1, to separate, use a comma to separate the elements in a series. Number 2, use a comma plus a little conjunction to connect to independence clauses. A little conjunction means and, but, for, nor, yet, or, and so. These conjunctions are or can go in the acronym, famous acronym from boys. Anytime you join 2 independence clauses together with a femboy, make sure to use a comma before the femboy. Example, he hit the ball well, but he ran toward third base. The word but here is one of these conjunctions, and it is joining 2 independence clauses. An independence clause is a clause that has a subject, a verb, and together with the other words in the sentence make complete sentence, or have complete or has a complete thought. Again, an independence clause is a clause with a subject and a verb and complete and has complete thoughts, complete meaning. Same thing here. He is the subject, ran is the verb. Together with these words all make a complete thought. Therefore, we have independence clause here and independence clause here, and therefore we need the comma before but. Yeah, this is rule number 2. Let's move on to number 3. Use a comma to set off introductory elements. Now, introductory elements are of 3 types. The first type is words, introductory words. Then we have introductory phrases. Then we have introductory clauses. Anytime you start your sentence with one of these introductory elements, make sure to put a comma after these elements. Let's see examples. First, we need to buy the supplies. So first is an introductory element, and specifically it is an introductory word. Other examples of introductory words are second, third, finally, also, furthermore, etc. After these words, we need to put a comma and continue with the main clause. This is called main clause or independence clause. There are exceptions for introductory words. These words, soon, then, and now, do not need a comma after them. So when you write soon and then you move on to the main clause, you don't need any comma in between. Soon plus main clause, no comma. Then plus main clause, now plus main clause, no comma goes after these 3 words. It's an exception. The second category of introductory elements are introductory phrases. A phrase is a group of words with no subject and no verb. Example here. Running toward third base. This is an introductory phrase, and basically it's a gerund phrase. Any phrase that starts with a gerund is called a gerund phrase. So this is an introductory gerund phrase. We need a comma after this phrase here, and then we continue with the main clause. He suddenly realized how stupid he looked. And the last category of the introductory elements is introductory clauses. What is a clause? A clause is the opposite of a phrase. It's a group of words with a subject and a verb. A phrase is a group of words with no subject and no verb. Example, after students finished with the exercises, they discussed the answers together. So this is an introductory clause. And introductory clauses basically are dependence clauses. They are dependence clauses. Okay, and a dependence clause is a clause that starts with words such as after, before, when, if, as, though, etc. These are called dependent words. Okay, dependent words, and they introduce dependence clause. So the whole clause is called dependence clause because it starts, okay, with a dependent word. So anytime you start your sentence with a dependent clause, make sure to have a comma and then continue with the main clause. This is called the main clause. It has you have to set off the 2 clauses to make it clear that you are using dependent and then independence. Rule number 3. Use a comma to set off parenthetical elements. Now, what is a parenthetical element? A parenthetical element is a word or group of words that interrupts the flow of a sentence and adds additional but non-essential information to that sentence. It can be removed without changing the essential meaning of that sentence. Example, my friend who doesn't like to wear socks is trying to give me his tennis shoes. Now, let me highlight the parenthetical element. Who doesn't like to wear socks is the parenthetical element. Now, it says here, the definition says, is a word or group of words. Sometimes it's a word, okay, and sometimes it is a group of words. So here we have a group of words that interrupts the flow. So the flow here is My friend is trying to give me his tennis shoes. So this was added just to give more information, okay, about this subject, my friend. Who specifically? Who doesn't like to wear socks? So it interrupts the flow of a sentence and adds additional but non-essential information. This is non-essential, and I can remove it and the meaning remains the same. I can say, my friend is trying to give me his tennis shoes. This doesn't give any necessary information. Another example of a parenthetical element is, in this example, the Founder's Bridge, which spans the Connecticut River, is falling down. So which spans the Connecticut River is the parenthetical element. Also, let me highlight this one, and this can be removed and the sentence should be with complete meaning. The Founder's Bridge is falling down, because this is known, which Founder's Bridge. Okay, now let's move on to number 5. Use a comma to separate coordinate adjectives. Coordinate adjectives are the two or more adjectives that describe the same noun. In this example, tall is the first adjective. Tall is the first adjective that describes man, and good looking is the second adjective that describes man as well. In this case, we have to set off these two with a comma. So that tall, good-looking man is the first example. Second example, I bought a black new car. So I bought the first adjective. I have to remove this one from here. It's not in the right place. So I bought a black is the first adjective, and it describes car. The second adjective that describes car is new car. I bought a black new car. Okay. So now a very good tip here, because there are some exceptions when we cannot use a comma between the adjectives. Now the good thing or the good tip here is anytime you can join with and, then you can use a comma between the two adjectives. So here I can join these two with and. That tall and good looking man. In this case I need the comma. I bought a black and new car. In this case, I can or I have to put a comma. Where we cannot join the two adjectives with and, this means that that's an exception, and that should go the same. Without the comma. Also, to make sure that you need a comma between the two adjectives, these two adjectives can take the place of each other. This means I can start with good looking and then end up with tall. That good-looking tall man is the same thing, same meaning. I bought a new black car is the same. Okay, let's move on to number 6. Use a comma to set off quoted elements. Quoted elements means when we have a quote in a sentence, we have to introduce the quote with a subject and a verb and then comma. He said, comma, then the quote. The author states, comma, then the quote. This is number 6. Number 7. Use commas to set off phrases that express contrasts. Example, some say the world will end in ice, comma, not fire. So not fire is or expresses contrasts. Expresses contrast of what was mentioned here. Fire is simply the contrast of ice. Second example, the puppies were cute but very messy. This phrase expresses contrast of what was mentioned here about the puppies. They were cute, yes, but actually they were very messy. Number 8. Use a comma between a city and a state. Hartford, comma, Connecticut. Hartford is the city, Connecticut is the state. We need a comma in between. Use a comma between a date and a year. June the 15th is the date, and we need a comma here because this is a year. Now it makes sense that we need a comma between a date or a day and a year. Why? If I remove this comma like this would not look like a date or a year. This is a confusing number. Okay? That's why we have to use a comma between a date and a year. Also, use a comma between a name and a title when the title comes after the name. So, Professor of English is a title for this person's name. Bob Downey, comma, what is his title? He's a professor of English. So we need a comma before professor. And also, and finally, use a comma in long numbers. So this is a long number, it's a million number, 5 million, comma, 456,000, comma, 783. And also here, $4,000, comma, 682. Okay. Yes, these are most of the important rules of the comma. They are 8, and I hope they are clear to you. Remember, just follow my videos. I will explain the importance of using commas in another video. I will do a practice punctuating a paragraph or sentences basically in a paragraph. Yeah, I'll show you how important it is to use commas so that your writings will be understood by the reader. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.